Hello, 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 hello. Tamara Hamilton here, back with our multi part series on breaking down the viral storytelling methods of one Risa Tisa of Who the F Did I Marry over on TikTok. We have broken this down into several tips, and now I am breaking each of those tips down and going into more detail. So, do me a favor, tag your business bestie that could really use these tips to help them become a social media star, and not for the sake of just becoming a social media star, to actually impact lives, generate more leads, more sales, more bookings, and more referrals, as well as opportunities. I always forget to say that one. Okay. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and drop replay in the comments. I would love to shout you out and say hello. If you are watching live, please come in and let me know where you are watching from. I'd love to shout you out also. Okay, so today we are talking about how to speak when you are telling your story so that others will listen. And when it comes to viral storytelling in particular, we're going to really talk about being engaging, creating that emotional depth, and how to make sure that you can connect with your audience. And that is how you speak so that people will listen. Okay. Now, before we get into it, I do have an ask. I'm giving you some really highly valuable information here. What would be awesome is for you to actually share this stream while I do a mic check really quickly. We want to make sure that we get this out to help as many people as possible. Okay, I'm giving you the goods. This is a professional level white paper case study that I have put together for you over this video series. So let's get into it, because I do want to be respectful of your time. Okay, so the first thing is you really want to create a conversational atmosphere. Think of how this video has gone so far. It's very conversational. It's very engaging. I'm asking you to do certain things. I'm inviting you in to actually dialogue with me in this in this live stream, right? And so one of the things you want to do is speak like you normally speak. Okay, a lot of times when it comes to social media, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to social social media marketing, is we feel like we suddenly have to sound like the utmost professional. We have to sound like we have a Harvard degree, and basically speak in a way like we don't normally speak. And I get it, the way we were all educated, especially here in the United States, it was to really pay attention to grammar and punctuation. Now, I'm not saying that those things don't matter. I think they just don't matter in the way that we've been educated when it comes to actually connecting with people and making an impact. You have to look at the average grade level of the person reading your post or watching your post as well. That doesn't mean that I don't from time to time throw in a 50-cent word, because that is how I speak, right? Anybody who knows me knows that I will drop a F-bomb and a 20-cent word in the same sentence. That is just part of who I am. It is part of who I've always been and who I will always be. But you want to speak naturally. So if you say, hey girl, hey, say that, right? You don't have to be like, well, hello there. There is a TikToker that says that, but that is part of her brand and it works for her. You have to be comfortable. And if you are speaking in a way that is not comfortable to you, people are going to pick up on that and they are not going to listen at all. Okay. So it's okay to start with phrases like, hey there, it's just me here wanting to share something close to my heart with you. Speak like a human, be human. That is so important. And not enough of that happens in this world, let me tell you, especially with certain demographics and age groups. Y'all still sound very stale, old, boring, and just not interesting at all. So be lively. Like, one of the best examples I can think of is like Cardi B. Like, Cardi B is not putting on airs for anybody. Cardi B is going to Cardi B no matter who she's talking to. Even when she is faking to put on airs, that Cardi B still comes through very, very strongly. Okay. The other thing is to do that direct address, like you saw me do with the replay. If you're new here, if you've been here before, come on in, say hey, say hi, make people feel seen, known, and heard. Okay. You can also do this with questions like saying, has anyone ever felt this way? Right? Have you ever noticed? Have you ever experienced this? Right? Pull people in and make them feel like you are a friend, like they are on FaceTime with you, not a live stream. Okay. So you want to invite into the conversation, make it interactive and inclusive. And that is how I do that. Okay. And say phrases like you actually would say in real life, right? Like one of mine is, I say that's hot, right? So, right is another one for me. I say that a lot, right? And I'm not even from the East Coast, but speak like you normally would. An example of a colloquialism is like growing up here, we didn't call them water fountains, we called them water bubblers. I would actually do that as an engaging question. So let me know in the comments, did you grow up calling it a water bubbler, or did you grow up calling it a water fountain, right? Let me know in the comments, like for real, right? I think of like Kadeen and DeVal, like the way he says dead ass, and he brings his Brooklyn accent and his Brooklyn upbringing and who he is into his content. And it makes him stand out. It's how we remember him and her and how we become to know them. Okay. So since we're speaking about engaging and we're speaking about conversation, I would be absolutely negligent if I did not bring up the Essential Guide to Social Media Engagement. So if you are feeling overwhelmed with creating content that converts, I got you, boo. See, there's that colloquialism again. There's that speaking how I normally speak. I got you, boo. Just drop the word engagement in the comments, except for TikTok. And TikTok, you're going to want to message engagement to me, and I will send you the guide directly in the DMs. Okay. So again, if you're feeling overwhelmed with how do I create content that converts, that is engaging and converts, I got you, boo. I've got an essential guide to social media engagement that has 8 tips. All you have to do is DM me or drop the word engagement, and I will send that over to you. Okay, now back to what we came here for, how to speak so that people will listen. Like Risa Tisa is now at like 2.3 million followers, y'all. Homegirl has really mastered not only storytelling, but she has really hacked the TikTok algorithm. But I believe you are the algorithm, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That is how she hacked the algorithm, by being authentically her and telling her story. There's a whole lot of talk about how she looks and all this other stuff, and I think some really high profile people should probably put themselves on mute, because they really are showing their haterism and their true heart and how they feel about certain people. So I'm gonna just say that, because none of that ever crossed my mind. I was just fascinated and intrigued with the way she told her story. So that is why we are doing this case study and white paper right now. Okay. So my next tip is to, first of all, decline this random person that wants to get in on my stream. All right, so we got that taken care of. Okay, so the next tip to speak so that people will listen is to use specific details, right? When it comes to sales, one of the things that I've learned in my 30 plus years of sales, marketing, and leadership experience is the more specific a number can be, the more believable it is, right? The more credible it is. That's why you often see things priced at like $27 or $27.97 to be exact, because it just gives it a lot more credibility, and people don't feel like, well, is it really $27 or is it really $27.97? Well, if it's $27.97, say it's $27.97. So give specific details, describe experiences in detail. What I do is almost like I'm in a tunnel, and I put myself back in that time, that situation, and tell the story about what I see, what I feel, what I hear. I always say it's a great idea to try to invoke as many of the 5 senses as you can, because that really puts people in the mind frame of they're there. I get that as an avid reader, and the books that have always just drawn me in, and I would like devour a book in a night. That's what they did. They really made me feel like I was there. I could visualize, I could smell, I could hear what the person who was being narrated about, or was narrating, what they were experiencing and feeling and seeing and hearing. at that time. So, you can say something like, the first bite of the creamy, rich lasagna took me straight back to my grandma's kitchen in Italy. Now, my grandma's kitchen wouldn't have been in Italy, it would have been over around 6th Street. But if you've ever been in my grandma's kitchen and I talk like that, you are definitely going to go back to my grandma's kitchen with me. And if you haven't, you may have someone else in your life that you can go back and imagine being in their kitchen and tasting food and smelling it, right? And my grandma ain't even Italian, but baby, she could cook, right? So use specific details and imagery and invoke those 5 senses and make people feel like they are there and a part of the process. Okay. And that's the next point, which is incorporate those sensory details. But y'all know sometimes I get ahead of myself, right? Bring your stories to life with sensory details. Say things like, I could hear the leaves rustling. I could hear him breathing and it was getting on my nerves, right? I could hear his deep guttural breathing. Say things like that, almost whispering secrets. It makes your content immersive. Like I said, people feel like they are right there in that moment experiencing the same thing. And one of the number one rules of selling is stories tell, right? Stories tell. Benefits sell. So you don't show, you tell. That is not, I'm saying this all wrong, but anyway, show, don't tell, right? You want to show people. I am saying it right. You want to show people. You don't just want to tell, you want to show people, and you can show them through the things we've already discussed, being specific and incorporating sensory details. Okay. You want to talk about emotions through actions. Like, I was so angry, I could scream is a very basic example. You don't want to just say, I was nervous. You'll say, my hands were shaking so much, I could barely hold the microphone. People can relate to that, especially if they've ever held a microphone and been nervous to speak in public, right? People can feel that. They can relate to that. And that's what we're going for here. Okay. So now on to our next tip, which is, oops, I went too far, to showcase emotional depth and honesty, right? You want people to feel what you are feeling, and that means you've got to go deep. Okay. So you want to share a range of emotions, the ups and the downs. And I think that's why this story from Risa Tisa has been so engaging, because she shared the ups and the downs. Like, she met a man and it seemed like it was going great. But then, she even felt like there was a red flag early on that she kind of ignored, and that should have told her when her tire was flat, and maybe she shouldn't have gone on the date and turned around and go home, right? So share those ups and downs. Admit, like, one moment I was on top of the world, the next I felt like I was back to square one. It humanizes you. And that is your power. That is your superpower, especially if you are selling products and services online, in particular, like retail. I get asked all the time about Amazon, and that is my number one comeback is, I am human, and people like to do business with me because I am human. They have a point of contact that is human. It's not an 800 number. They're not talking to people from different countries. They're not talking to a different person each time something comes up. They are talking to an actual human. They're not just talking to a chat bot either. They are speaking with an actual human. So humanizing the story by sharing that range of emotions, because I said it in a previous video and I'll say it again, people will connect with you through your weaknesses. They'll admire you for your strengths, but they will connect with you through your weaknesses. I don't make the rules. It just is the way that it is. It is what it is. Another one of my little phrases that I say. Okay. And this one is huge. Y'all, if you followed me for a while, you know I am huge into Brene Brown. Her whole power of vulnerability really changed my mindset and my life right when it needed to. And being vulnerable with people is really key. But I want to point out, it does not mean you have to get on here and cry. And that's what I love about the Risa Tisa story, is she didn't come here when she was at her most weakest. And I know that's probably not good grammar, but I just told you, you don't have to do that, right? She didn't come here at her weakest. She came and told her story once the scab had healed, once the scar was healing over and had some thickness to it so she wouldn't get triggered and have an emotional breakdown, right? I'm not saying it's bad to have an emotional breakdown, but emotional breakdowns definitely is not a marketing strategy. I need y'all to tell some people that, okay? Being on social media and every time you get on, you're crying and overly emotional, it's just not the flex that a lot of people think it is. You can be vulnerable without doing all of that. Okay. Vulnerability is good in the right dosage, right? And I'm reminded of, and I was talking to someone else about this earlier today. You share your story with those who've earned the right to hear your story, right? And so I think she definitely, Risa Tisa, came into this with the mindset of being able to monetize this at some point. I'm fully in belief of that, and that's why she shared some of the details that she did. But she also, very importantly, did it from more of a healed position where the wounds aren't just fresh and don't cut and hurt as much. Okay, so be vulnerable. Don't shy away from those personal stories, even if they sting, but just again make sure that they're not that fresh sting where it's just god awful. Try not to do that. That's my take. You can do what you want to with it. So you can say, I'm going to share something I haven't talked about much. Right there, you're going to get people's attention. They're going to stop and listen because people are nosy. People are nosy. They're going to want to hear when you say, I really hate to say this. That's one that I use a lot. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but here goes, right? That's that vulnerability. Okay. Reflect and offer insights. So after you share, reflect on what those experiences taught you. Otherwise, it's a complete waste, right? There are a lot of people that don't like to put up their weight loss pictures, right? But it's your weight loss picture, your before and after tells a really good story because you are sharing that transformation, right? You're sharing this is where I was, and here is where I am. By the way, here's the solution of how I got there, right? But the key is to talk about what that experience taught you, what you learned. That's that whole invest, learn, teach of monetization, sharing what you've invested in, what it's taught you, and what your next steps are in helping other people be able to learn from your journey. Okay. So reflecting and offering those insights, you can say things like, looking back, those setbacks were setting me up for something bigger, right? People love to hear stuff like that because they love, we've been fed stories our entire lives from the time we were babies. Like I read to my babies when they were in my womb, right? So for some of us, before we even were outside of the womb, we were being fed stories. So we love a good story. Those commercials we've been watching for all of our lives, they tell stories, right? Even in 15 seconds, even in 8 seconds, you can tell a complete story. And when you're telling a 50-part story, you definitely better be bringing up your reflections and your insights. I admit I didn't have not watched all 50 parts, but I have tools and resources that allowed me to analyze all 50 parts and come here and reflect and share what I learned. I got a big set of data and I narrowed it down. Okay. And so I am sharing that in this series. Okay. So now, if you are ready to take your content creation to the next level, dive into my next gen content masterclass and discover my stars 5-point method of creating content that converts. You can basically turn your social media into a cash generating machine. Don't miss out on elevating and amplifying your storytelling approach with this masterclass. It is not only affordable, it is also accessible with payment plans from Klarna. And it's, like I said, it's super affordable. Okay. So again, thanks for being here with me. I wanted to come on and share what I've learned from watching this story. I might not have been fully engaged in every single video, but I saw those first couple of videos late last week and just have been watching with awe and how all of this is unfolding. It is really great storytelling, and I will be back tomorrow with my next set of tips on how to tell your story, your virally, like Risa Tisa has done. I can't wait to see how you bring your unique experiences to light. And so keep sharing this video, keep engaging. And I love when y'all come in my inbox or you comment on posts that you're watching these videos and what you're learning. So please keep doing that. And let's make every piece of content a bridge to someone's heart. Okay, that's what it's all about. So I will see y'all in the next video. See you tomorrow.